In Central Ohio, nearly 1 million pounds of food is wasted every single day. But not all foods are wasted as frequently as others. Today I'm going to talk about 3 commonly wasted foods: milk, cheese, and bread, and how we can store them better to help them last longer. First, we have our bread. Now, if you leave it out on the counter, it'll last somewhere between 2 and 3 days, depending on whether you've opened the packaging. But what I do is I slice it up and just put it in the freezer, and it'll last for up to 6 months with no change in flavor. In the freezer, it'll never be considered unsafe to eat. Next, we have our milk. Milk is a complicated one because of the system of date labels that we have here in the US. Fun fact, the only federally regulated date label in the United States is baby food. For everything else, there are state-by-state regulations, but they vary and every manufacturer is different. So one milk may have a different policy for how they set up their date labels than another brand of milk. And so what we have to do instead is use our senses. The trick with milk is to trust your senses. Our taste buds will tell us when milk has gone bad, much better than the date label on the packaging. So sniff or taste your milk, and don't worry too much. There are actually a lot of recipes that call for slightly soured milk, so it's very unlikely that you would get any type of stomach aches or anything like that as a result, just from a taste. And last, we have cheese. Cheese can be a little bit trickier because it varies so much from type to type, and there are different packagings and labels, but really there are 2 tricks that you should know for every kind of cheese. The first trick is that cheese needs to breathe. It will last longer if it has a little bit of oxygen exposure, so these plastic packaging that it often comes in is not ideal. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rewrap my cheese into a parchment paper package and then just tie it off with rubber bands to make it last much longer. The second trick with cheese is not to touch the cheese. And you'll notice in the way that I packed it, I never have my fingers touching the cheese, and that's because there's natural bacteria that live on our hands, and that bacteria interacts with the bacteria on the milk and the cultures, and it causes the breakdown process to move much more quickly. So just to recap, our cheese tips were: don't touch the cheese and pack it in breathable containers. So those are our 3 tips for the day. Thanks for joining me, and bon appetit.